Hi, everyone. I'm Tweak from Beneath the Tangles, and I am here today with one of the most notable names in voiceover, an actor who likely voiced one of your favorite characters in animation or gaming throughout the past 2 decades. You know him as Titus in Final Fantasy X, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Clone Wars and other Star Wars series, Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Leonardo in TMNT, and now in two series of particular interest to Beneath the Tangles. He plays a variety of voices in The King of Kings, which opens in theaters on April 11th. And he's in Gabriel and the Guardians, which is out now. Both of those are distributed by Angel Studios, so please check them out. And joining me here today is the one, the only, James Arnold Taylor.
Well, I should start with hello there, shouldn't I?
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that.
I can't not.
No, it's expected, right? Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Yeah. No, really glad to have you. We're the fans for Beneath the Tangles, as you know, although we focus on anime, the nerdum is kind of this broad thing, right? Everyone's jumping into got interest in fantasy and interest in gaming, Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars nerd through and through, so I'm super excited to meet you. Yeah. Very cool. So, but I do want to talk about King of Kings first, since that's about to come out. A really big deal. I've had people actually reach out to me saying, "Have you heard of this? Do you know all about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know all about it. It's a pretty big deal." I wonder if you could just tell our audience a little bit about what the movie is, kind of the unique perspective it takes, and then about the roles you're playing in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, though, to talk about it all. I really appreciate it. But yeah, the movie, The King of Kings, it's a project I've actually been involved in for about 6 years. They've been making it for about 10 years. But it tells the story of Charles Dickens, who was, a Christian, and he wanted to share with his kids the Gospels. And so back in 1846, he wrote a book called The Life of Our Lord. And it didn't get published till about 1934. And so 64 years after his passing, and almost 100 years after writing it. But it was his way of introducing his children to the Gospels. So this story focuses on, in the beginning, on Dickens in his life, on the stage, and, Scrooge and all of those things, Christmas Carol. And then he's got his kids, and one of his kids in particular, Walter, is just, they're not connecting. There's always those ages at points where, you and your kid just aren't connecting. And his little son, Walter, wants to be King Arthur and such. And so he says, let me tell you a story about a real king. And so he proceeds to tell him. And so we live the story of Jesus through the eyes of Walter and Charles Dickens. And it's really a fun way of doing it, because we flash back and forth, but we also then have them go into the life and times of Jesus, and walk with him. The other thing I really love about the movie is that it's not preachy in any way. It's essentially just saying, here's Jesus, here's who he was, here's how he lived, here's what he did, and take that information and do with it as you would, take it into your heart, hopefully, is the hope, of course. And Walter certainly does. I don't think that gives anything away, but it's great fun. And we've had a blast doing it. And like I say, there's so many wonderful actors on this film, but there's also so many wonderful voice actors involved as well, which I think is fun for all of us that love anime. There's some great stuff, everything from D. Bradley Baker doing the voice of Willa the cat. And of course, you would know D from the Clone Wars. He was the voice of every single clone, or the Bad Batch. He's an amazing actor. Legendary actor Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, Cat Dog, Darkwing Duck. I mean, his list goes on and on and on. And Jim does voices in it. Fred Tatasciore, you would know as the Hulk, and many other characters in the world of animation. Vanessa Marshall, of course, from Hera from Star Wars Rebels, and Mick Wingert. So we have a lot of voice actors, a lot of powerhouse voice actors in there. And I was very blessed, because I jumped on at the beginning of this. Jamie Thomason was our voice director and voice casting person for this. And Jamie, of course, he's directed me in TMNT, a movie called Animal Crackers I did with my daughter actually years ago. And so I was brought in originally to do what we call the scratch tracks. So whenever you're going to do an animated feature film like this, you'll bring in voice actors to do the preliminary voice tracks. So you can animate, you can storyboard, you can get the sense of the characters, you can try to figure out who they get, because I knew I'd eventually be replaced by a celebrity, in some of these roles. But thankfully, they kept me on. I'm about 8 different characters in the movie. And you can kind of play Where's Waldo with me in this and see, like, where's James? And watch the credits at the end, because my name pops up a bunch of times, which is fun.
I love that there is this combination here, because I feel like sometimes with these big films, you get only the celebrities, and some of them do a really terrific job, right, with the voice acting,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah,
then you miss out on the rich voice acting by the people who do voiceover professionally. So I love that there's a blend here. You've got, Oscar Isaac on one hand, and then
yeah.
you've got Jim Cummings, which, to me, that's like Oscar Isaac, right? And you too, but Jim
Right. I
Cummings,
mean,
oh my goodness,
no,
right?
yeah, Jim is one of my heroes and a dear friend of mine. And he's just so humble and he's so great at it. And the funny thing about Frank Welker and Jim Cummings, I don't know if you know this. I remember there was this article that came out years ago in like Variety that between Frank and Jim, they were the number one and number two in most, like being in the most blockbusters of all time, and the most, like the biggest gross of things. They were above Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks and everybody, because they're in all of these amazingly, wonderful movies. And then sometimes their voice is hiding where you just wouldn't even know it, So yeah,
That's
so it's
super
very
cool.
cool.
No, I love that. Well, I was going to ask you how you got involved, but then so you've been working on this for 6 years now, and now it's finally coming to fruition.
Yeah, so I was originally the voice of Charles Dickens and the voice of Jesus and the voice of the devil and the voice of most of the apostles.
Wow.
Now I'm Matthew, and Matthew, I threw a little Matthew McConaughey in there when you hear him, but no, all right. No, I did more of a kind of, he's right in here. And then Philip is pretty much just kind of my regular voice. Usually I'll use my regular voice somewhere in there to ground characters. And then I played Thomas, Doubting Thomas. So I gave him a bit of a doubt to his voice. I'm not so sure about this. And then I'm Melchior, and Melchior was one of the three wise men that brought the frankincense to the baby Jesus. And then I also play the scribe to King Herod, who is voiced by Mark Hamill, who's of course a friend of mine from Star Wars. A lot of Star Wars actors in this. And then I also get to play young Jesus, which is really cool. So I had to kind of ask myself, what would a young version of Oscar Isaac doing Jesus sound like? And so it's a very calm, very calm voice, and it's just right in there. It's kind of similar to some voices you might hear in some anime too. It's in that tone. So a lot of fun.
No, I love that. As you're speaking these voices, and you mentioned that one of the voices you did was just kind of in your regular tone. I saw something in your probably one of your videos where you mentioned that maybe it was one of your first jobs was kind of doing a sit-in or something for Michael J. Fox. I mean, when I hear your voice, I hear Michael J. Fox, like that kind of boyish. I don't know what it is back in that tone there, but I was like, oh, that's what you sound like naturally. And I hadn't looked it up, so I wasn't sure. Like, just kind of random off topic here. What were you doing there with Michael J. Fox at that time?
So I am what they call a voice double for a lot of famous people. I mean, dozens of different famous people. Hopefully you don't know the difference when my voice comes out of their mouth in a movie, if they need to correct a line of dialogue or something. But for Michael, I've been his voice double for several decades, actually, for things for like Stuart Little and Atlantis Lost Empire, some Back to the Future stuff. AJ Lacasio does that pretty much now, and he does an amazing job. I love AJ. He's a dear friend, and he does a fantastic job as Marty McFly in the video games. I got to play Doc Brown in the video games with him, which was great fun. Great Scott, Marty. So wait a second, Doc, you mean to tell me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? So yeah, I have kind of a natural, we have very similar tones, and I do tend to kind of go very easily into Michael's voice, doubling people like David Spade as well for things like Cusco. And Cusco, no touchy. It's very similar as well. It's just in a different placement of my voice. So if I go over here, I'm Michael J. Fox. If I go up here, I'm David Spade. If I come down here, I'm Shia LaBeouf. So I've voice doubled for all those folks. And like I say, the trick is, hopefully you don't know the difference. So if I'm doing Christopher Walken's voice for Christopher Walken in a video game, hopefully you think Chris is great in the game. If I'm doing Captain Jack Sparrow for Johnny Depp, or Willy Wonka or the Mad Hatter for Johnny Depp, hopefully you don't know the difference. If I'm doing Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon for Jay Baruchel, then hopefully you don't know the difference between what Jay is doing and what I'm doing. So there you
that's
go.
amazing. No, I love it. That's like you're taking me through my childhood into adulthood just on that short minute awesome. There. No, that's super cool. How was by the way, for King of Kings, how was the premiere? It was in Franklin, Tennessee, right?
It was, and I live out there, so it was great because it was easy for me. And so I'm in Los Angeles right now doing some press for the film, and we were at WonderCon. But yeah, I live out in Franklin, And it was pretty great to just go down the street to go to a movie. But the premiere was wonderful, and we had all sorts of, a lot of country music, a lot of Christian music folks there, a lot of actors. A lot of people have moved to Franklin in the last several years. We moved there about 4 years ago, and it's just a delightful place. And so the premiere was awesome. It was great fun.
Franklin is a really cool city. I went there for the first time last year because in my job I'm actually a historian. And we put a historical marker in Franklin, Tennessee for the Battle of Franklin. So there's a park over there. Yeah, and we placed it. So if you ever go there, there's this obelisk. I think it's an obelisk type thing. And then we placed that last year over there. But
my goodness,
it's a lovely town. I really enjoyed it there. We have a couple of our volunteers that live around there too. So no, it's a wonderful part of the country.
Yeah, there's some great history there, and yeah, you would absolutely appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been to several of the sites, but I'll have to check for that. I'm going to look for that now. That's cool.
If you're ever around there. So, well, back to King of Kings, and kind of, what's really cool about this. I saw in one of your videos too. You mentioned the idea that, hey, if you're a Christian and you're kind of looking for maybe a door to talk to people about faith, this is a movie that's not super preachy. And it can kind of open that door to discussion. And I wonder that, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about, what it's been like to be able to talk a little bit about your faith, in the industry, actually, because, I think for us outsiders, the perspective is like, whether it's voice acting or any type of media, television, film, things like that, a lot of us are probably like, wow, that must be really, really difficult to be a Christian in that industry and to talk about faith. And you must come across a lot of difficulties in doing that.
It's, it is something that I think for years, I've been a Christian for 30 plus years. And ever since I've got involved, I've been in Hollywood for 30 plus years. So I've always tried to be very open about my faith, very candid about it. Certainly at, a dinner table or a cup of coffee with somebody, I'm not going to stray from it. In interviews, usually if I'm talking about Star Wars or, Ratchet and Clank or something, it doesn't really come up. But that's been the beautiful thing about working on this project and some other projects that I've been working on lately, like Gabriel and the Guardians and such, is that it kind of combines my worlds, so I get to talk about what I do as an entertainer, and then I get to talk about the thing that I'm the most passionate about, which is my faith and my just appreciation to Christ for his grace, and the fact that we are saved by that grace if we so, open that door of our hearts to him. And so I love that in this, I get to combine those worlds. But yeah, I think there's a lot of Christians out there, a lot of people that might surprise you, but there's also a lot that are very open. Matt Lanter, of course, my co-star in Star Wars and my co-star in Gabriel and the Guardians, has always been extremely open about his faith in his social media and such too, which I just so appreciate. Catherine Tabor, who is also in Clone Wars, she played Padme. So Anakin and Padme are both believers, and that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. But yeah, it's very cool to get to kind of be able to just, I think that the thing is I try to normalize it as much as I can in my social media, in my YouTube channel stuff, the things I do. I was just trying to say, look, I'm a Christian. This is what I believe. I'm going to normalize the name of Jesus because I don't think it should be something that we should be afraid to say. And I just want people to see that we're just regular folks. We watch entertainment, we do regular things, but we also love the Lord. So yeah, it's an important thing, I think, for a lot of young actors and a lot of young people in the industry, having role models to be able to go, oh, it's okay. I can do this. I can talk about my faith. So that's what I try to be as much as I can.
That's awesome. I love that. I think, especially if you're a younger believer or just a young person, a lot of times you feel this pressure. I've got to witness, I got to evangelize. How do I do this? Right. But as you kind of grow in your faith and it's just part of your life, it's going to be part of your life, right? You're going to talk about it. You're going to share it. You're going to say, oh, I went to church on Sunday. And like you said, it doesn't have to be part of every conversation. I think that's sometimes what we think, right? But if it's just part of your life, it's just part of your life and it's going to come out.
Yeah, that's the thing with so I have a podcast called Talking to Myself. And in that's where it really started kind of coming out because, it's like an hour-long podcast and I'm going to talk about things. I'm going to talk about my life. And I have so many NDAs on things that I can't talk about. It's like, well, I can talk about what I did this week, or I can talk about what I watch on television or what I'm doing over here or there or what I'm reading. And so my faith just started kind of coming out in that. And I think what I got was this rush of people that were so interested to know. And, oh, I'm a Christian too. That's so great. It's exciting when you're a Christian, you find out that somebody else is of faith. Like when Chris Pratt goes up and says, on an MTV Music Awards, there is a God and he's real and he loves you and he wants to know you. People go, that's exciting, So it's fun when the people you watch or you look up to, or they're kind of your heroes in entertainment, are believers. I mean, it's a fun thing. So I love sharing it. I love being able to talk with people about it, and the doors that it has opened in conversations when I'm at Comic-Cons. My wife and I, we spend every other week at least at a Comic-Con and meeting people. And, people that come up to the table and the stories that I hear, and so many of them are, so grateful that we're talking about faith. And that's what I love what you all do, is that you're being very open and just like, yeah, this is it. This is real life. So I really appreciate what you all do.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it really all is about what God has given to us, and just sharing that wonderful gift that He's bestowed upon us. So thank you for that. We speaking of continuing to kind of speak a little bit about faith, but you mentioned Gabriel and the Guardians a few times. So
I like your shirt. Yes.
Yeah. No. So I got this. I got this from Jason, who's the creator of the series, and I want to ask you how you got involved. And I'm going to give a guess. This is my guess that he just went up to you at a convention and started talking about this project. Now, how did it really happen, though?
Well, that's how he approached Johnny Young Bosch.
Yeah, well, see, I know that. That's funny.
And it is funny. Yeah, he just went and Jason is that. He's a very, he's a wonderfully amplified human being. I love him. His energy is so great, and he's fearless in that. But no, actually, it's really funny. So I made a movie called Hidden Blessings that came out this last year, and originally I was going to have the music by a band named Jars of Clay, which is a Christian band from the 90s and 2000s that I'm a big fan of. And Dan Hazeltine, who is the lead singer and one of the main, songwriters and such for them, he is in Franklin as well. And we connected through a mutual friend because I had put a lot of their music in my film. I was trying to get the rights to it. That didn't end up happening. But what did end up happening is that Dan and I really connected and became good friends. And Dan was like, hey, I've got this buddy of mine that's working on this project, and would it be okay if I connected you? And so Jason, through a friend, they had a mutual friend. And so this mutual friend connects Jason and says, my friend Dan Hazeltine has a guy that does voices. And Jason's thinking, oh, okay, great. Everybody's got a friend that does voices. Yeah. He goes, yeah, you can send him his info. He goes, great. His name's James Arnold Taylor. And Jason was like, what? And so, I don't mean that like a pat on my back, but it was just, he knew who I was, and that was kind of fun. It was funny. He didn't expect Obi-Wan Kenobi to be going, hey, I want to be in your show. So we connected, and he and Al Moore and David Cunningham and all of the folks there at Gabriel, we just really hit it off. And so my wife actually did some of the casting for the film, for the show as well. So we brought in Vanessa Marshall and Gabe Patillo and Matt Lanter and Christina Malizia. And Johnny brought in Christina V. And so between Johnny and I, we kind of cast the whole thing, which was a lot of fun.
That's super cool. Now, that I love that story. I love I love that. Now I know that Jars of Clay was somehow involved in Gabriel's Guardian as well. That's what a neat connection there. So, but you brought up Hidden Blessing, and I want to pause there too. So this is kind of your foray a little bit more into live action film. And this is like a passion project for you. So yeah, well, why don't you tell the audience about that one?
Well, I greatly appreciate you letting me talk about it. It is something that I've been very passionate about. It was a story that was in my head for 30 plus years, and I always wanted to do a modern day telling of the Prodigal Son story, and I had many different versions of it in my head for many years. And then eventually it was like, how can I tell this on my own? How can I make this movie, with no budget and just really good actors, and tell a story that's hopefully compelling and interesting in a way that shares the gospel. And so I wrote it as a documentary. So the whole movie is a faux documentary, like, Best in Show or Spinal Tap or something, but it's not a comedy, it's a drama. And it takes you behind the scenes of this young girl who is really, she grew up in a family that was very Christian, and she's pushed away from that. And now her mother has passed and left her this painting that appears to be from this very famous artist that was kind of a reclusive artist that she then sends an email to, and through some happenstance, they connect. And he invites her to come and film a documentary of him in his house, which he's never done before. So she and her documentary film crew come and start capturing his life as this painter and why he's so reclusive and such. And in turn, catches the story of the prodigal son on camera. So we had to do it in a way too, where everything that happens in it, because it's shot as a documentary, happens where there happens to be a camera there, or they've got a hot microphone on and we're hearing something while behind closed doors. And so we had a lot of fun putting it together. I did it, out of pocket, no budget, but the film has won about 12 different film festivals. Out of the 14 we submitted to, we've won 12 of them throughout the last year. And we're really proud of it. Myself and my producing partner, Matthew Buds, who is also in the film. And we have some wonderful young actors. Mason McCarty. Mason has been in all sorts of movies lately. He was on Stranger Things. He just did Terrifier and all that, all the scary movies. But Mason's a great guy. Kylie Kay plays Lydia Drake, the main character. And Kylie is just fantastic, a fantastic young actress. And Drew H. Wells plays another one of my sons, M. Genovese. All these fantastic young actors telling this story. And we just had a blast because it's just like a very intimate telling of this story of the prodigal son, hopefully enlightening people about this. And again, my character is somebody like we're talking about that just goes, I don't know, I just happen to love Jesus. And if you're going to talk to me, you're going to hear that, but I'm not going to push it on you. So hopefully people see it. It's Hidden Blessings. It is on Redeem TV. You can watch it for free at redeemtv.com. And you can watch it with no ads there. You can watch it with ads on Tubi and Roku. I believe it's on Amazon to rent or buy. It's on Fandango. It's on several different platforms, Salem now. But if you go to redeemtv.com, you can watch it for free, which I would encourage people to do.
Very cool. I love that. The very structure of that and the story itself, to me, that is kind of very reflective of the Christian life, right? I mean, we think about like these big moments, and there are big moments like, oh, for some people, it's like, that's the day I remember like dedicating my life to Christ. Some people remember that, or they were at some sort of like big event, or, they have this huge testimony, but for the rest of us, and also just for all those kind of times that fill in between, right? There's these subtleties. There's these, God is weaving this big story, right? Like the prodigal son, or this young lady's tale that involves her parents and then leading to this moment in her life. But then it's the relationships, it's the moments in between where God is continuing to work, right? And drawing us to him.
Man, you are so right. Yeah. I mean, I look at my own life personally. Back in 2005, I lost my voice to black toxic mold because we had bought a house that was just a money pit, had everything that could go wrong, went wrong. And we were in the process of adopting our daughter from China at the time. And so I lose my voice. I got chronic laryngitis. I got really sick, brain fog, all this stuff. And I was saying to God on that day, February 13th, 2005, please don't let this be the worst day of my life. And 6 months later, we get the paperwork for our daughter. You get placed with a child, and that's how it works. And they give you their profile, and we're looking through her paperwork, and we see that her birthday is February 13th, 2005. So the day I thought was the worst day, he turned it into the best day. But that's the way that it works, right? And all the minutia of life and all the things that we think are, oh, this is the worst, or why is this happening? He always has a plan if we just sit back, relax, give it to him and surrender. We're in this Lent period right now, and I am just trying to surrender to God as much as I can, all my little worries and things. Because, people go, oh, it must be exciting being an actor and all that. It's like, I worry like everybody else. I overthink everything. I'm a pessimist at heart, but I try to be an optimist, and the grace of Christ is what allows me to do that. So yeah, absolutely, man. It is all about those in-between moments.
I love that. And thank you for mentioning that story. So I saw you tell that story, I think, on 700 Club, right?
Yeah.
And I was hoping you'd tell it here. So thank you for that. But I still feel the tingle. I still feel the tingle when you mentioned that date, right? Even though I've heard it a couple times now.
Yeah. There's an even a deeper story to it too. I'll just very briefly tell you, because I didn't get to tell it on 700 Club. Is through all of that, the brain fog, all that stuff, it led me on a journey finding out about that. If I had never lost my voice to that, never all that, that then I found out the man I thought was my father my whole life was not my father at 42. And then I found out who my real father was. It turns out my real father actually did what I do for a living. He worked in radio and television. He was a voice guy. And it's kind of an amazing story. But yeah, through the grace of God and patience and endurance and going, look, I'm going to do this to you here so I can get you to here. And that's the story keeps unfolding is what I find.
Holy moly, that's insane. I just so everyone, make sure to go to not only watch the movie on Redeem TV or other platforms, but go check out Talking to Myself, because this is where you're going to hear a lot of these kind of, you know, these little stories or the personal stories for James here, and then get to know him a little bit better. No, that's, oh my goodness. So yeah, I before I let you go, I do want to ask you about a couple of anime properties I think you were involved in, and it's been a while, so so I'll forgive you if you can't remember.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. So when I was first really getting into anime, one of the things that was like this huge kind of production. Now things are a lot more mainstream. There was news just the other day about a major Hollywood actress being in a live action version of Gundam, which is about as otaku as you can get, right? So like we've hit this point where things are more mainstream, but a couple of decades ago, they certainly weren't. But a huge DVD came out that was called the Animatrix. And yeah, so that, to me, that was a really big deal as an anime fan, because it was like, wow, this hitting the mainstream. And when I was researching you, I was stunned to realize that you played the lead in what I thought was one of the maybe one or two best shorts in the entire anthology, and also directed by my favorite anime director, who is Shinichiro Watanabe. So I wonder if you have any recollections about working on that property.
Oh gosh, just one or two, just a couple. Yeah, no, it was so, and it was right when we had just been doing Final Fantasy X as well. Jack Fletcher was the voice caster for all of those projects and a voice director in those as well. So he brought me in on those, and I was so grateful to Jack. Still, I'm just incredibly grateful to Jack Fletcher for all the things he's brought to my career, playing Tidus in Final Fantasy. But we were recording that, and then it was like, well, we've got this other project. It's called the Animatrix, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, I am so in. And I actually, here's a little fun fact for you. I'm actually more voices in that, in all of the various ones, than any other actor. So I think I can't remember how many stories are in there. 6 stories, say. I'm in like 5 of the 6 or so. So, but yes, you're talking about a case to end all cases.
That's it.
Detective story. I play Ash, the detective. It's this black and white film noir, and it was such a cool one. Kate Moss as well. We had a really great time putting that together. It was, you know, at the time, whenever you're in something, you don't really know what the impact is going to be, how it's going to come through. But I knew, actually watching this, like, this is going to last. This is going to stay. People are going to love this. And it's funny because I'm putting some videos together on my channel, and I'm going to be talking about Ash a little too, because it is weird how it was a long time ago now. It doesn't feel like it should be, but I loved working on that project. It was so fun, and there were so many cool little things to do in that.
Yeah, it's definitely lasted. And then you had the new Matrix movies come out a few years ago, so it's bringing it back, and people are rediscovering it these days. So no, that was super cool. That I can remember getting home, opening it up, watching all these shorts, and just being like, we've hit this level where we've got the Wachowskis like involved in creating this thing off their property. It was super cool. So the other one I want to bring in was one that I think you had a much smaller role, but and maybe not. So again, just looking at the internet, right? Were you involved at all with the dubbing when it was released in the United States of Nausicaa? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So what role did you play in that, and any recollections about that as well?
Yeah, well, that was actually because it was done through Disney. So I was actually at Disney Studios, which are just down the street here. I remember it like yesterday. I have a pretty good memory for voices, for sure. I can recall a voice and kind of bring it up. If you know, it's just a weird little gift God's blessed me with. I take no credit for it. But also, I seem to always remember studios because I'm a tech nerd. I love studios. So I usually remember where I was. Like I did Animatrix at Studiopolis in Studio A when we recorded that. And then I did this one over at Disney Character Voices when we did Nausicaa. And I remember that day we had Frank Welker and I were doing some voices together, That was I played one of the old men in that. I might have even done a couple of them. And then I was several different characters and soldiers and things. We had a blast doing it because I knew it was such a big project to be involved in. And again, it was one of these ones that I think I've always kind of understood that anime had a very devout following. And anytime I was going to get to be in some of it, I thought it would be really cool. But I haven't had a lot of work in anime, but the ones that I have, I've been very, honored to be a part of. And that one was a huge one for me to be a part of something so big as that. And it's a neat project. I listen, you watch it and you hear it, you can hear my voice, woo, 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 little, things throughout the whole movie. And then also the lines of the characters that I do. So I'm the same with King of Kings. I'm kind of like always in the background doing a voice of somebody muttering something somewhere.
I love that. No, that's really cool. Those Studio Ghibli releases by Disney Miramax at the time, they were just, the quality was so great. Like I was just amazed at like so typically, I mean, this may be not typical, but my worry is that when you bring in big Hollywood stars into stuff, that when you've got these other incredible voice actors that are already out there, you may have someone who doesn't really understand how to do this type of work. But all those movies that got released or brought to America at the time, they were just incredible, including Nausicaa, and it's just an amazing dub.
Yeah, and that was the first time I worked with Patrick Stewart. Now we went on to do TMNT together and a couple other projects that we've been in. But Mark Hamill, of course, was in that as well. And there was they had a lot of people that understand voice acting. A lot of really great actors, on-camera actors doing voice acting as well. And that's certainly, it's kind of the same with King of Kings. You got Pierce Brosnan, actually, I thought was pretty great. We got all the sirs. We got Sir Pierce Brosnan. We got Sir Kenneth Branagh. We've got Sir Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley as Caiaphas, really pretty great too. But it's that same kind of thing, I think, where they went, okay, it's important to get folks that understand it. And Uma Thurman too. I was very surprised and delighted. I mean, she has a wonderful voice already, so it was great to hear her in that. But yeah, there's just some crossover in those worlds, I think. So.
Yeah, I love that. And a number of those people, including Uma Thurman, also was she did a voice for a Studio Ghibli feature as well.
Yeah, so. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, right. She did, right?
Okay, if I remember right, but
okay, yeah,
or maybe it was Nausicaa, one of those. Anyway, well, I definitely appreciate you again for stopping by. Maybe one day you'll be Sir James Arnold Taylor. You got enough connections with those folks. No, that would be cool. But no, I super very much appreciate your time today. I appreciate, as usual, you being very frank about your faith and what you're doing out here and how that's an important part of your life and sharing that with us as well. I do want to let everyone know to please follow James on Instagram, especially, and on YouTube at JAT Actor, where he is very active. He's also got that Talking to Myself podcast, which there's going to be snippets on those social media platforms, but they can also probably subscribe to like maybe Spotify or iTunes or something for your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to watch it on YouTube in that. So every week, so tomorrow one will be coming out actually where, so every Wednesday, and I do the first 10 minutes, I do a video version of it. And I take you behind the scenes because the show is talking to myself. So it's me talking to me. So I do all the voices and I do them in real time and I switch back and forth. And a lot of people were like, well, are there edits in there? So I started putting the first 10 minutes of the podcast out because that's when I do most of the voices. So you can see those on the YouTube and then you can go and click the next button and listen to the whole audio version of it. Or you can, absolutely, Spotify or Amazon or Apple, wherever you podcast.
It sounds like so much fun. So please go check that out. And then again, you got so much stuff going on. Hidden Blessing on redeemtv.com or any of these other platforms as well. And then King of Kings comes out April 11th. A week before Easter. So perfect time to go check that out. Bring a friend to it. Get encouraged by seeing animation on a big screen that has to do with the story of Jesus. Something that, again, you can use as a tool as well, but just enjoy, right? And, one of the things we talk about beneath the tangles is just being kind of connected to the creator, right? He's a creative soul. He imbued this within us, right? So just enjoy awesome animation, awesome acting, to be a part of that. And so follow James Arnold Taylor on all those different platforms and Thank you again for joining us today. We so much appreciate it.
Oh, bless you guys. Yeah, thank you so much. And I just so appreciate Beneath the Tangles. I love what you're all doing. God bless you. And bless everybody there. You know, whatever you believe, man, just know there's a Lord in heaven that loves you, and he's seeking your heart, and he's knocking on the door of it. So just always know you can always open your heart up to Jesus and say, hey, I believe. So give it a shot.
Thank you again. And God bless you all. And we'll see you later. Take care, everyone.